In the final years of his long career, Stravinsky became a serial and 12-tone composer in his own distinctive way. The Requiem Canticles, an abbreviated Requiem Mass, is Stravinsky's last major work. Like all of the major works from this period, the Requiem Canticles is based on a fancy kind of chart called a rotational array. What is a rotational array? A rotational array starts with a hexachord from a 12-tone series. Here you see a hexachord I've labeled IRB. It is the second hexachord of the IR form of the series for the Lacrimosa movement from the Requiem Canticles. It has a distinctive profile of intervals, 7, 2, 1, 8, 2, with 4 as the wraparound interval from D sharp to G. The second row of the array is generated by rotating the first row. D moves from the second place to the first place, E moves from the third place to the second place, and so on, and the first note G moves to the end. Then you transpose the whole row to start on G. In this case, that means transposing everything up 5 semitones. Notice what happens to the intervals. They all slide one position to the left. You get from the second row to the third in the same way. You rotate, the first note goes to the end, then you transpose the whole thing to start on G. In this case, that means transposing up 10 semitones, and so on as needed through the whole array. That's the whole IRB array. The first note of each row is G, and in Stravinsky's music, that first note often plays a special role. The rows of the array all have the same intervals, but rotated. Here's the vocal melody for the first section of the Lacrimosa movement. Stravinsky composes the melody by moving systematically up through the IRB array that we just generated. 6, then 5, then 4, 3, 2, and 1. Here's the same information now projected onto the entire score. The melody presents the rows of the array either from left to right or right to left. As a result, the note G is heard prominently at the beginning or end of each melodic phrase. Let's listen, and as we do so, attend not only to the vocal line, but also the instrumental accompaniment, which has some sustained chords and strings and winds, and some brief brass interjections. The brass interjections come from a different rotational array, the IA array. That is the one generated from the first hexachord of the I form of the series. The brass interjections are taken from rows 2, 1, 4, and 3. Now let's look at the sustained chords. They also come from the rotational arrays, but there's something new. The melody and the brass interjections use the rows of the array. The sustained chords use the columns of the array, the verticals of the array. When we get to the first vertical of the IRB array, we find a chord where all the rows start on G and the vertical in the array consists of 6 Gs. Stravinsky's chord also has a multiply doubled G, and it sounds a bit like a tonic arrival. Then, having gotten there, he starts to draw verticals from the IRA array. Stravinsky's music throughout his career was built on stratification of the texture into distinctive horizontal layers, and the formal division of the texture into chunks or blocks. We get very much the same arrangement here, only now the horizontal layers and the vertical chunks all have distinctive origins in the rotational arrays.